Check, check. Check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Bring in listeners. Hello, everybody. My name is Jewel. This is my first time on Wisdom. I decided to challenge myself with this app. I heard about it from my coach. Her name is Melissa D. White. I met her at an Impact Rally 2022, and she is an activation coach, and she challenged me this week to explore the Wisdom app. So I decided, okay, let's do something I am familiar with. So I wanted to just get on here and talk about being your authentic LGBTQ self in the workplace. A little bit about me. Currently, I am a truck driver. I've been driving now since 2008. And that field is a predominantly male industry. So when most males encounter me, I don't have a lot of features that they consider to be masculine. So a lot of times they will ask the usual question about marriage, children, things like that. And really all that's about is that they're trying to determine where I'm at in the single or married lifestyle. So I am married. My spouse and I have been together for 28 years, and we have definitely grown quite a bit. One day I'll do a talk about being in a long-term relationship. So one of the challenges of being authentic as an LGBTQ member, when I entered the workforce, it was not common to talk about your sexuality or be open about whether or not you were LGBTQ, whether if you had children, marriage, okay, that was fine. And so I remember when I started working in the office environment, and my boss or my supervisor on my team, he sat right in front of me. And one day I remember him asking me, do you prefer significant other or partner? And I kind of laughed at it, but I thought that was cool. He was attempting to engage with me about who I was and find out a little bit more about my lifestyle. So I remember telling him, partner. Significant other just sound like extra words. Partner, one word, keep it moving, good to go. So that began me to open up a little bit. Yet I didn't really feel all that comfortable because everybody around me was either married, or if they were single, they did not indicate whether or not they were LGBTQ. Although they were very friendly towards me. It wasn't until I entered the trucking side of the logistics industry that I experienced a little pushback. So we'll go into a little story here. So in 2008, I got my license, and my first trainer and my trainer picked me up in North Carolina, and from North Carolina we went to, I don't know where we're going. I think we're going to either Florida or Virginia, something. We were going somewhere. So I had all my stuff, got on the truck. Here we go. We heading off. My chat and stuff, I didn't really open up as to my sexuality because I felt like that was none of his business. I was, on the truck, and we were just going to play it by ear and so forth, and so on. And in the industry, there's not a lot of females, so finding a female trainer was just non-existent. So going forward, we got into our first bout of conflict one day, and that's when I began to realize what he was doing was challenging my sexuality. And so I had to be assertive and let him know that there were boundaries, and if he could not respect those boundaries about my life, then we were going to have a problem. And we wind up having quite a bit of problems. I mean, just constant conflict. I didn't even want to talk to him because he was just kind of vulgar. And it wound up being that I had to get moved off the truck and onto with another. I had to get moved over, and another trainer had to come and get me because this particular individual was just off the chain. But what I realized at that moment was I was going to need to be assertive about who I was and stand my ground and defend myself, because I was in a predominantly male industry that believed in gender roles, and I didn't. I did not see gender roles in the way that they did. So I've got, what my mom always says, my dad's hands. So I have big hands, and I'm broad-shouldered, tall. Definitely somebody who presents herself as don't mess with me if I need to. For the most part, I like to present myself as friendly, yet I do come off to some people as being more, I wouldn't say mean, but they kind of get standoffish about me, and that's okay. So that was my journey, how my journey began in the trucking industry. And as I got into different jobs, it didn't get any better. And so I took a break from my first company. There was definitely a lot of signals that the company was not necessarily supportive of who I was as a woman driver, and that didn't feel very comfortable. So I left there, and I wind up going to another company. Actually, I wound up going on a break. I went on like a 2-year, 3-year break, and I wind up moving to a small town, Tennessee, with my partner. It was actually her hometown. And, we kind of struggled, because I remember going on a job interview for a truck driving job. And, that was my first experience as somebody telling, basically blatantly, without telling me, like, we don't hire your kind. So how the interview went, the young man asked me if I had my hazmat endorsement, and I told him yes. And so when you are a truck driver, you get some endorsements on your license that basically makes it possible for you to drive anything you want, right? So he asked, do you have your hazmat? I said, yes, I do. Oh, okay. Do you have your triples and doubles? I said, yes, I do. Okay. Do you have your tankers? I said, yes. Yep, I got my tankers too. And then he says, well, do you have your TWIC card? And I said, yes, I do. He turns to me. Now, mind you, that's all the endorsements you can get. There are no more endorsements after that, okay? And he turns to me and says, well, I'll think about it. I'll let you know. Interesting. So either you want a driver or you don't want a driver, right? No biggie. So a friend of my partner, actually I think it was her stepmom, she suggested I go to drive for the bus. So I didn't have my bus endorsement yet. I could get that, no big deal. But I did go and meet with the bus driver, and he just straight out told me he didn't think I would be a fit for being a driver due to the area. And my spouse had told me, my spouse is white, and she grew up in this small town that definitely did not have a lot of black people. So I was not surprised, but I was kind of like, wow. And it's 2010, is it really? Okay, moving on. So I kind of struggled for a little bit, attempting to find work, but I wind up going and getting back into truck driving and moving to Atlanta, Georgia, where I am currently now. And I chose Atlanta, Georgia because I had been hearing on podcasts, on YouTube, and everything that Georgia was becoming the new Mecca. And I was like, the new LGBT Mecca. Like, you come down to Georgia, you're embraced. Doesn't matter what, skill sets, anything. If you're LGBTQ, you got a home, right? I was like, bet. My mom was from Georgia, so it was like a perfect fit. My sister had just bought a house, moved down to Georgia from New York, and my mom had moved back to her hometown, and I was like, perfect, this is going to be great. So, boom, I come down here and I move, and I get a job with a company, truck driving. I was the first female truck driver they had ever hired. Can you believe that? The first female truck driver. I was like, OMG. It is 2014 and I am the first female truck driver like you ever hired. Are you kidding me? So I was like, okay, cool. So they didn't have a lot of drivers. Most of their drivers had what they call a Class B. A Class B truck driver, they can only drive a box truck. So I had a Class A, which is the top of the line, and they needed somebody to drive their 53-foot trailer, and they needed it to go from Atlanta to Nashville every night. So what that meant, I would leave around like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would have to go through Atlanta traffic, Chattanooga traffic, and Nashville traffic. And then I would get up to Nashville and they'd load me. So I get up to Nashville. This is the first time, going to this location. And I've driven the mountains before and stuff, so that wasn't too bad. But paper is very heavy, if you don't know. So I get there to the location. And at that time, I had cut off all my hair because I was trying to go natural. So I'd cut off all my hair, and I think I might have had on a baseball cap. I'm not real sure. But anyway, I walk in the door, and it's a bunch of guys. And the guy that was before, the driver that was taking the route before me, his name was Jesse. So I walk in the door, and they're like, oh, look, it's a new Jesse. I thought to myself, okay, they're trying to break me in. Let me be. So I said, no, my name is Jewel, and they're like, okay, hey, Jesse. Okay, cool. It's my first night, so we're just gonna, I'm gonna get everything off the truck, get reloaded, and go home. So, I get there, what they do is they transload the freight. They take everything that I brought up from Atlanta off, and then they give me back a bunch of freight to take back to Atlanta. So, so I go back. So, my first night, I'm like, tired as I don't know what, because by the time I start going back, it's like midnight. So I don't even get back to home until like 4 in the morning, and then I still got an hour to drive. So I do it, and I gotta go. When I get back, there's like nobody at the warehouse. It's dark. I'm in the seedy part of Atlanta, and I gotta back this 53-foot truck back off the street. I mean, it was just the tightest of tightest spots, but I get it done. So the next morning, I come in, they're like, wow, you did a great job, blah, 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 blah. Well, if you like this route, this will be your route. And I was like, okay, sure. Well, I knew I had to fix something. I had to fix what was going on up there in Nashville. And so at this time, I'm kind of, not really expressing, who I am and so forth. I'm not when I say I'm not expressing who I am, I'm not expressing the fact that I am LGBTQ. Okay, this is Nashville. I've been in Tennessee. I was living in Tennessee on the other side of Nashville. So I was like, okay, I know. I gotta tiptoe. I gotta fill it out. Okay, so I go back up there the second day. Same thing. Jesse, hey Jesse. Okay, my name is Jewel. Yeah, okay, Jesse. So what I began to realize is that they didn't want to recognize me, number one, as a woman. They didn't want to recognize me as a black woman. So they wanted to make sure that they let me know they don't see me. What they saw was a Jessie. I said, oh, okay, right. So at this time, I tell myself, okay, there's a few ways I got to handle this. And I got to be kind of diplomatic about it. So I let it slide, but I go back the second time and I tell my supervisor, I was like, seems to be a little thing about how knowing my name, and they all want to call me Jessie. And he laughs it off. I said, well, I'm here to tell you my name is Jewel, and tonight, if we can't accept that, I'm just going to have to let him know. And he's like, oh, do what you want to do. There's just fellas, just fellas. So I go back up there third night, and they go, hey, Jessie. I said, it's Jewel. And if you call me Jessie one more time, I'm going to let you know how Jewel handles it. And that's how we're going to do it, right? So everybody kind of got quiet. So then they, meander around, and they start cussing, and they start fussing, and they start letting little words slur out towards me. So at that time, I had to be the nasty me. And I had to let them know, you will put some respect on my name, and you will do it starting tonight. And if you got a problem with that, we can take this further. But the name calling and the disrespect ends now. And this is what... This is where I didn't want it to go, yet this is where it had to go, because I was dealing with all white males who did not want to see me as who I was. So I had to let her know. And those are the hurdles of life as a truck driver that most females probably deal with. But for me, it was off the chain. So we, this relationship began rocky, and it stayed rocky. It stayed a constant conflict, verbal assaults when I went up to Nashville, and I would tell my supervisor in Atlanta, and nothing was ever done. Nothing was ever done. Nothing was ever told to hush, to shut it down, fellas. It was, you're the first female we hired, so, hey, you want to run with the boys, I guess you're going to have to do what boys do. So that's what I had to do. I had to basically convert my personality to the badass in order to just be in the environment, because it was just that negative. And I wound up leaving because it was just sickening. It was actually so toxic. It was sickening. And it taught me a lot about standing my ground, being me, being my authentic self. They found out later on, yes, I have a wife, and we've been together 28 years, and that's just the way it is, fellas. I don't want your woman. Don't even worry about it. But at the same time, I shouldn't have had to be punchy and cussy and fussy. It should have been an easy, because when the other fellas came up, it was like, yo, man, what's up, tap, 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 yeah, how you doing, oh, you brought me weed, blah, 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 blah. We cool, we that. But with me, it was, F this, F that, F this, F that, every day, when I backed that truck into the door, they would be like, I'm so effing tired of you coming up here with all this freight. Okay, that's just part of the job. But really what they were saying is, I don't want to see you. I don't care if I see anybody else. I don't want to see you. And we proved this point when I decided to switch and move to a different area of the company. I had to take a guy up there to train. People might think I'm crazy, but I'm not. So for probably about a year, I kept asking them to move this forklift because it was right in the way. And I would have to really, when I would back in, I have to back in real soft because I had to make sure I didn't hit it because they wouldn't move it. The first night, I took Greg up there. The first night, he said, yo, I can't back this in with that thing sitting there. I said, man, I got to do it every night. They tell me they can't move it. Do you know he walked in that door and he had them move it? And they moved it. They moved it. So being your authentic self has consequences, yet I refuse to give up my authentic self in order to be able to make money. And I just don't understand why I shouldn't have been allowed to make the same amount of money. And man, we driving the same. We went through the same school. We drive in the same vehicle. I got all my endorsements. I mean, so what's the big deal? I got just as much experience, if not more. Accident record, clean as a whistle. Yet, constant friction. Constant friction. So needless to say, I wound up leaving, taking a break from these folks. And I wound up going, I took a break. I went and delivered pizzas. I was just so frustrated with it. And then I wound up going back the second time, and it wasn't any better. It was a big mistake on my part. I shouldn't have never gone back the second time because even though I was doing local delivery, I told them I wouldn't do the Nashville route. I absolutely refused. And they said, that's fine. Yet I still had the same friction. I still had to fight to get people to either load my trailer correctly or communicate to me correctly. Whereas with all the other fellas around, it was never a problem. And a lot of people would be like, oh, that's all in your head. But I would have proof after proof after proof that who I was an issue. So that being said, I finally got my reward when I moved to a new company, and that's the company I'm working with now. And they celebrate LGBTQ, they celebrate diversity, they celebrate women drivers, they want more women drivers. Matter of fact, there's 4 of us. Yeah, there's 4 of us now. And don't get it twisted, there's still fellas that have their issues, but at least the company, and that's the key, the company has to support you and keep you uplifted in the work environment so you can continue to be your authentic self as an LGBTQ member. You shouldn't have to walk around and hide and act like you got a husband somewhere buried in the backyard. You should be able to hold your head up and say, I got a wife, And so I don't wear my ring, and I don't wear my ring because I drive, and a lot of times I put my hands in places I don't want that ring getting snatched off. So one day, matter of fact, it was last year, my spouse sent me flowers, and I had my dispatcher, he didn't think I was married. So, I could tell by the way he spoke to me that there was some too much friendliness, but he didn't overstep the boundaries. But I could hear it in his tone. And so he asked me, he was like, who sent you flowers? Ain't nobody sent you flowers. I said, my spouse sent me flowers. You ain't married, you ain't got no ring on your finger. I said, by the state of Georgia, I'm married. And it wasn't until I showed him a picture of my wife and me at Thanksgiving that he was speechless. So I realized then it was like, okay, because my features are soft and because I don't walk around here, they don't think I'm truly who I am. So I have learned over this last year to be my authentic self, and I don't have to be punchy about it, yet I am assertive about it. And when I'm approached many times, throughout the day, people will be like, your husband let you drive a truck? Your husband let you do this? We got done with the husbands let me do a long time ago. If you didn't know, now you know. But I did have one man, an older man, and he was like, does your husband drive? And I just said no. And he's like, okay. And he left it at that. So, I say all this to tell these stories because, being your authentic self is important, and you should definitely hold your head up high as an LGBTQ member, and don't be afraid to push back. And if your management team is not helping you, because as you saw in my first company, I had no support, and you can't take it up, you might have to consider leaving, because there are companies out there that still don't want to open the doors or allow you to be free as to who you are. So I see I've got 7 listeners. Wow, I've just been sitting here talking. I don't know. I guess I hit okay. I'm going to see if anybody wants to talk to me. But anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. I got 7 listeners listening to my story, and hearing how being LGBTQ in the workplace can be a definite struggle. But I moving forward and taking all this in, I feel so much at ease and at peace with myself when I can go to work and not be ashamed or not have to cover up that I have a wife at home and all those things, because it makes the work environment very uncomfortable to be when you spend most of your time at work and I gotta hide who I am. I can't take off my mask until I get to the house. No. When you hire me, you hire all of me. I don't mean I got to walk around and put it all in your face. Yet at the same time, I don't need to be repressed either. You're not repressing the fellas. Don't repress me, And so I say all that to, if you're struggling at work and you're trying to figure out a way to be our authentic self, hold your head up. Be proud of who you are. Hey, gender bending, it's okay. It's okay. Gender is a construct of our society. It's not anything to do with you biologically, So if you got a gender bend, and be proud. So, wow. I don't know how long I've been on here, but I am going to. I don't see anybody wanting to talk. Let me see. No, nobody wanting to talk. I don't know how to work this, but yeah. No, everybody ask a guest to join. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I will give it a minute if they want to ask me anything. If not, I'm going to sign off of here, and I want to say thank you guys for making this first live on the Wisdom app fun and enjoyable, and hopefully I have inspired someone to be their authentic LGBTQ plus self in the workplace. All right, peace and love.